State law requires this body to announce at this time that a copy of a current Open Meetings Act is available at the back of the room where it is accessible to the public. Simpson.
Here.
Sisson.
Here.
McDermott.
Here.
Gibbons.
Here.
Erbaum.
Here.
Hines.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Alder.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. If we can all stand, please, for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Amen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody tonight. We don't charge too much admission, but stay and enjoy the game here. Item 1 is consent agenda. Approve this agenda. Pay the claims as submitted. Approve the minutes of the October 15th, 2019 regular council meeting. Motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve this.
Mike Sisson.
I'll second.
Second. Troy Erbaum.
McDermott.
Abstain.
Gibbons.
Yes.
Erbaum.
Yes.
Hines.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Alder.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Sisson.
Yes.
Motion carried. It's now time for the public forum. If anybody has anything that is not listed on public forum, now's the time to address the council at this time. If not, I will close the public forum. The mayor is moving item 9 up to take the place of 3. Sorry, Jason, you're next. After them, you're first.
Got me all excited.
Sorry about that. Consider allowing the construction of homes and improved subdivision prior to the installation infrastructure. This is allowing the prairie build out to the Mesner project. I think you've all got a copy of what all they're wanting to do and everything. Have any questions? If not,
I think we're all on board with the project and want to see it move forward, so I'd make the motion that we allowed the prairie build on this project with a timeline of 12 months to get the infrastructure in place, but this way they can move forward on the housing.
And that also meets city code.
It meets city code, yeah.
I'll second that, also with the 12-month timeline.
a motion to second. McDermott seconds.
Sisson.
Yes.
McDermott.
Yes.
Gibbons.
Yes.
Erbaum.
Yes.
Hines.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Alder.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, item 3, or whatever we want to consider it. Consider health insurance renewal option. That didn't take too long.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great, how are you? I apologize, these were not in your packet ahead of time. The
Just don't
claims
let it happen.
reporting is as fresh as yesterday, so I wanted to make sure that we had all information so that we could talk about it tonight. Yep. All right. Well, I appreciate the time this evening. I'll be as brief as possible. The group health plan for the city is certainly a big item. It certainly has grown over time, but I think the strategies we've deployed over the last 10 years have really paid off. And we'll go through sort of looking in the rearview mirror a little bit, and then looking toward what 2020 will look like. That past that cover page, the first page is just a look back on 2018. Some of you recall, we moved from a traditional fully insured product with Blue Cross Blue Shield to a partially self-funded program where we really kind of controlled our assets and controlled the plan spend. From January of 2018 through December of 2018, after all expenses were paid, we put in just over $1.1 million in funding, and we paid out just under $1.1 million in claims. We yielded, after all claims were paid, all expenses were paid for, we had a $58,000 surplus. It's a good sign. It means that we had money left over at the end of the year. We made some adjustments in 2019, not to the plan design itself, so employees didn't feel any impact to the adjustments we made. It was really in the structure of what we did to the self-funded plan on the backside. So the next page in 2019, we have claims accounted for all the way through all the way through October 31st, which is what I was putting together yesterday. So after 10 months in 2019, after some adjustments we made to the stop loss policy and how that worked, you can see that we've paid in $948,000 in funding on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, total cost column, we've paid out $774,000. We've added another $174,000 in surplus. So it's worked really, really well. One thing I want to point out on that sheet is in the fixed cost portion of the blue rows there under stop loss. That total there is $242,950 in that column. I want you to put a pin in that number and think about that, because that's the actual premium. That's the insurance premium we're paying for coverage above and beyond our excess losses. So remembering how our self-funded plan's working. Okay. Admin costs have remained steady over the 2 years. It's really the premium cost that we were trying to squeeze that down so that we can increase the funding into our claims. Okay, so that next page looks back at 2018 and what we did here last year. We looked at a benchmark of Mercer did a study in 2016, and they looked at other health plans across the country. Government entities as a whole throughout the country spend on average of $13,868 per employee per year. Holdridge in 2018, the yellow highlight on the right, we spent $12,119. So we beat the average nationally by about 12.5%. That's what that highlights on that page. The next page is taking a same look at 2019 to see what we're doing to bend the cost curve. Remember, the reason we went down this path was so that we can bend the cost curve and take control of our plan costs. So far, in 2019, after 10 months, we're beating that curve even more so than we were last year. And that's, again, due to some of the strides or the moves that we made last year on the stop loss policy and the way the self-funded plan works. We're beating the average by 26%. Okay? Next page. Next page is a sort of a historical look at where we've come from in 10 years. In 2008, when she was in the room. Oh, she was in the room. Cheryl was in the room. When I first got the call in 2008, the Blue Cross Blue Shield plan is that blue dot on the far left-hand side, and they were introducing a 44% rate increase at renewal, and we started looking at alternative options. Right, so we implemented a health savings account, raised the deductible, offered 2 different plan options for employees, moved the retirees off the Blue Cross plan into a separate plan that was that provided, I think, a better level of coverage for them, and avoided that blue line, because as we looked at what that blue line would do with Blue Cross over 10 years, in 2019, this year, we would be facing a $1.7 million health insurance bill. The changes we've made over the last 10 years, you can see the orange line is the actual plan costs each year over the last 10 years. In 2018, we were faced with Another increase from Blue Cross, even though we were using the HSA, even though we did the dual plan option, even though we had the retirees moved off, it caught up with our strategy. And they wanted to hand us a $1.4 million bill. We moved in 2018 to a self-funded plan to take control of our cost. And I'm happy to report that the 2018 actual paid claims and total plan expenses comes in under 1.1. In 2019, our projection is when it's all said and done, we'll actually see a bend in that total cost curve. That all make sense? So I don't know how I don't know how long we can sustain the curve going down, but if we can flatten it, that's the idea, right? That's what we talked about. All right. So the next page is a similar report. This takes just the 2019 plan year. These reports should look familiar every month. I'm trying to make sure that you get those in your council packets so that you can see the performance of the plan. Make sure that you see what I'm seeing. I generally give you some commentary if need be. The only thing I really want to point out in this report is there's a column called specific claims. It's about 5 over from the right. And the total at the bottom is $8,185. What that column represents is how much the excess loss or the insurance company has paid out that we haven't self-funded. So remember what I told you to put a pin in the premium of $242,000 in premium. We've bought insurance coverage for $8,000 worth of claims. I say all that to say we're doing a really good job of paying our own claims, and I'd like to see that premium continue to go downward, and we continue to fund our own claims as we move on down the road. Okay, so it's working the way it's supposed to work, and the next page illustrates that. Of the total paid claims, we have 6 claimants over our individual threshold. Remember that our threshold in the plan, no one person can account for more than $50,000 coming out of our claims fund, and then the insurance kicks in, right? We've had 6 people so far in 2019 breach half of that threshold. And two have exceeded it, so that's where the insurance piece comes in. For those in the assembly, there's no names, so we're simply looking at numbers. But the notion here is that the insurance is working the way it's supposed to work, and we're self-funding a large majority of the claims that we see come through the bill, which is fantastic. The last page. The last page. If we look at the current column, just to kind of explain what that is, we're not talking about plan design, we're not talking about employee deductibles, we're not talking about prescription cards. As a matter of fact, my recommendation, if anything, is to keep the benefits intact the way they are. I know I told you last time that I'd like to bring an option to look at that was an alternate to the HSA, but after looking at the way the plan's performing, we'd kind of be silly to change some of those things. So I don't think we're in a position to make a change to any of the benefit structure this year. Instead, I think we owe it to ourselves to look at the stop loss policy and the way that self-funded plan, the components of the self-funded plan are working. So in that current column, kind of explain what that fixed cost row is. It's about midway down the page. You see employee and family, and there's numbers next to it, 24 and 32. So this is a snapshot of your October invoice. Okay? So these numbers at the bottom won't match the numbers throughout the report because your census of employees and families changes from month to month. And so the report shows actual costs. This shows projected costs if we lock in our census of employees on October 1st. So, but those unit costs are what we see on the invoice. So the unit cost on a fixed cost basis, that's our premiums, and that's our administration fee. Is a unit cost of $386.06 for single coverage, $730.65 for family. Everybody follow that? Down the column, then we get a monthly total of $32.06, annualized at $391.7. Okay. Next row down is claims liability. Again, unit cost for employee and family broke out separate, $523.24, $14.66, for a monthly bill, if you will, of $59.4, total annual of $713.7. So those two buckets, if you will, the fixed cost and the claims bucket, add up to our maximum total plan cost illustration down below. So our monthly bill in October was $92,000, right? Renewal, if we don't change anything with regards to the self-funded components of the policy, is about a 5.5% increase. Trend, I hate using the word trend, but my industry almost demands it. Trend, they talk about 10 to 12%. I call the bluff on the insurance industry that that's really not trend. We're not seeing that trend in your own plan, right? Our claims cost went down this year, so we're not doing anything special yet to those claims, but our claims cost has gone down. So I think trend is not necessarily a factor here. If we don't change anything, then our fixed cost goes up $21,000 a year. And then our claims fund goes up $42,000. Okay? I'm not recommending that. Again, I want to bend the cost curve, so I'm looking at option 1 and option 2. In yellow, option 1, the only change is we increase the threshold from $50,000 to $60,000 on the claims fund. What that yields is just about 2.25% savings on our premium, and it adds more to our claims fund for a total net increase of 4%. More importantly, we save $9,000 in premium, and we add $54,000 into our claims fund for a net increase of $44,000 for the year. Okay? The far right column gets a little more aggressive, moves that threshold to 70, decreases our premium 8%, which is a yield savings of $32,000, increases our claims fund by 70 for a total net of just under 3.5%, and an actual net increase of $38,000 for the year, which is incredible. Remember, we have 58 in reserve, plus another 174 that we haven't spent. I project we're adding about $60,000 a month to the claims fund, and our burn rate's about 50, so we're netting about 10 a month. I project, remember, it doesn't end on December 31st. We have run out, or if claims are incurred in November and December, we still pay for those January through June. So we won't know the actual net effect of that surplus until June 30th. But my projection is that we'll probably end up with about $100,000 to $125,000 left over. I'm not making a recommendation either way tonight. What I want you to consider is one of those two options, 1 or 2, moving down that path, keeping the plan designed the way it is. We still have some claims that I want to take a look at and see what those future costs will be in 2020 before I say, hey, we're gonna take the excess liability on another 10 or 20,000. Once I have those, I should have those kind of sorted out over the next couple of weeks in time for your next session. But the good news is we're not. I mean, if you read anything about group health insurance, we're not experiencing the ebbs and flows that you're seeing out there in the industry because we took control at the right time.
Sounds very encouraging. Any questions from the council? Comments?
I think it's pretty impressive that we're keeping the percentage of increase as low as we are compared to what the rest of the industry's doing.
Yep.
It's definitely paying off.
I think this has worked out better than we could have imagined. Maybe you imagined it, but this has been pretty good.
A lot better than when we first started, isn't it?
I agree with that.
Well, Jason, you've done a wonderful job for the city of Holdridge. I want you to know that. It's been a pleasure working with you all these years. Larry and I were part of this when we got this started.
I remember.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty.
4% didn't look good.
I remember that call. I'd like to come back in 2 weeks if I could.
Sounds great.
And give you final recommendations.
Try not to move you down to column.
No, you're fine. It's fine. You moved it up to 6 o'clock, so it's been great. Bob said we got here, he's never seen Holdridge in the daytime.
There's a lot of advantages moving forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Jason.
Nice day.
See you.
Item 4, approve the 2020 Holdridge Tree Board Plan. Is John here?
John gave his presentation at the last meeting, but I had it on this agenda in error, so all you need to do is formally accept the plan review.
Like you said last time.
He did it in public forum last time.
Yep. Motion to approve the Holdridge Tree Board Plan.
I move that we approve their plan.
And Troy Erbaum, seconds.
Gibbons,
Yes.
Erbaum,
Yes.
Hein,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Aldridge,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Sisson,
Yes.
McDermott.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 5, consider the Chamber of Commerce request to approve the location and use of the street at 414 West Avenue for Santa's house.
Santa's coming to town. So I met with Livestock Feeders, and we have decided on the small house. It's 26 feet long. It's got a small balcony in the front, nice windows and everything. And they're planning on delivering it November 25th, 26th, or 27th, just depending on whenever they can get that work order in and processed. It has to be done before Thanksgiving, obviously. Our first Santa date is planned for November 30th for Small Business Saturday. And that will go until after New Year's. They have to wait until after Christmas and after New Year's because they can't move anything that size during holidays. So that will stay up until the 2nd or the 3rd of January.
What did we do for electricity last year?
I think they found something down there. Or did they have a generator?
That generator, yeah, I can't remember what they did.
I can try to find it in my notes, but
Either a generator, they're gonna talk to a business nearby or something.
We used to always tie into the old gift and things store.
Yeah, there was something happened that,
But I don't think we were able to.
They don't
last
have power
year.
there now.
it's being occupied now, so it might be different, but I'm sure I wouldn't have a problem trying to figure that out.
I'm sure we can figure that out.
Any questions for Jessica on Santa's house? I'd sure like to see Santa come to my house this year. I have to go downtown, I guess.
I move that we approve the request.
Randy?
no second.
Mike Sisson?
Thank you, gentlemen, and lady.
Thanks, Jessica.
Simpson,
Yes.
Sisson,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Gibbons,
Yes.
Erbaum,
Yes.
Hein,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Aldridge.
Yes.
Motion carried. Item 6, consider request from the Veterans Memorial Committee to rename the South Park to Veterans Memorial Park.
I'll bring my friend Doug up if he's next guy. Friends is around the word.
Is this his name?
Yeah.
Good evening, council members, mayor. My name is Mark Kraus. I am a member of the Veterans Memorial Committee. We've had a few meetings now. In our last meeting, it was actually brought up that previously South Park, which we have kind of decided is the park we definitely want to do this in, has previously been known as Memorial Park. When that was historically, I'm not sure. I'm kind of new to the area as it is. But there's also the tank down there. There used to be a World War I memorial, doughboy on a pedestal. Now there's just a pedestal because I've been told it got melted down for ammunition back in the past. So there's a lot of history in that park, and we want to put this memorial there for that reason. But one of the other things we want to do is rename the park as well. We think it would be very, very promising to the revitalization of South Park, as well as really putting this memorial on the map by naming the park Veterans Memorial Park. So we're just asking for your consideration to possibly look at renaming it. One of the things that we can work with the foundation in the future that we're using to fund this project is also doing some, sign changes, et cetera, ourselves versus asking the city to do it for us. Already discussed with the chamber the possibility of having a ribbon cutting if this gets approved and we actually rename the park. And they're on board for that as well. So, any questions?
My wife actually did some research on the park. She's kind of into this stuff with her stereoscope she puts out, but it was named Memorial Park at one time, and over the years it's had several different names, and it was actually changed to South Park when the council approved the establishment of the North Park. So that's kind of when that all
Kind of what I figured.
kind of changed to that, so, but she had quite a timeline of all the different things over the years that were tied into it, so. I think it'd be a good move to rename it since we're gonna put the memorial down there for the vets, so I'd make a motion we approve it.
I'll second that.
All right, Gibbon seconds.
Sisson,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Gibbon,
Yes.
Irvine,
Yes.
Hines,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Aldridge,
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Thank you, Council.
Yeah.
Anything else? Bring someone else up?
That's easy.
Don't run off, Doug.
Unfortunately. Sorry, guys. Kind of like a bad dream, I just keep coming back.
Thanks.
Our memorial that we're planning is a very unique task. And as we go through the whole process of finding the spot, funding and all that, certain things come up. The last time this came up, we had some concerns being raised from the property owner just north of the park, across the alley. Access was an issue, and so forth. So we decided to revisit our location that we had picked over there on that northwest corner. So Mark Krause, myself, Don Deely, and a couple other guys come out, and we spent a Friday afternoon down there. And to tell you the truth, we had really good conversations, not all in agreement, but good discussions, the kind of discussions you need to have for something like this. But in the end, we decided by rebranding the park, we're going to rename the park now. And we can make this more of a footnote, more of a centerpiece of that park by moving it into a different spot. Well, our best spot that we came up with is, as shown on that drawing in front of you, as kind of an overall view, just north of the ball field down there. And everybody's got a lot of memories of that ball field. But we don't have the visibility that we did over at the Northwest Park, but this is a better spot. It's natural ground. We don't have to worry about that foundation of the old well house up there. That's a whole different game that I'm glad we possibly don't have to deal with. But then we also have a lot of room down here for parking. The drawing I've got in front of you, this isn't anywhere near the construction set or the final design, but it just gives you an idea of the possibilities. I show on there 3 handicap stalls, so people with wheelchairs can get accessibility into the site. And it fits in there real good. The drawing itself, the back of the concrete's about 30 foot off the fence. I'll give you an idea of kind of how far that thing sits. If you go to the second sheet, you get a little bit more clear view of what we've got out there. And it just fits in there really nice. Now the last sheet is if we have to expand. Now you think this here is fairly large, and right now we've got room for about 900, 950 names. Well, in Phelps County, we've got like close to 3,000, 2,500 vets that possibly could want to be on here. Well, granted, we won't get them all on there. They might not want to be on there, etc. But it's going to fill up fast. So we gotta look to the future, 10, 20 years from now, this is what we wanna do, you know, how we can do it. That third sheet kind of gives you an idea how we can expand by, you know, making the arc a little bit bigger, adding a second row, that increases our size over 3 times. You know, so we can keep the initial layout, and with a little bit of effort, we can easily double and triple the size of this thing, and still pay a pretty good homage to our veterans. So with that, I'd love to take any questions, but we'd like your approval to move this thing back to where we're showing over here.
Questions? Randy?
I just think it's a great idea, Doug, to move it over there. Someday that ball field isn't gonna be there. I don't think I don't think it hardly gets used now. So that's an area we can do a lot of different things in.
That's one of those historical things, you kind of, it's not getting used, you know, to where it was before. But historically, there's a lot of memories in that ball field. I mean, when we were down there walking, everybody, except for maybe one of the group, played ball down that field. And sorry.
Well, church league.
But I mean, there's a lot of memories, so you hate to say, we're not gonna use it and take it down, but there's so much more you could add to that. And make it more of a centerpiece, make it more of a family area. I mean, the South Park is a great park. If you look around it, there's a lot of history. The old flower beds, the rose garden. Imagine if we can bring that back a little bit and get some pride back in that South Park. Use this as our centerpiece, reposition a few things. That place can be pretty impressive, really, fairly easy.
And that's a piece of what I talked about in the last agenda item, was this rebranding of the park and revitalization of South Park. Maybe we can, that's one of the things I actually brought up during this walk was, well, maybe that won't be there forever, and we need to plan on what it's gonna look like when that's not there. But at the same time, we can use this as keep that history, you know, have like a Veterans Day Memorial Softball Tournament that raises funds for something, and actually bring that back to use. And you'll see that throughout the year. So it's one of the things that we really think this is gonna help improve the park in general. And by putting it here, we have that opportunity to expand, but we also have the opportunity to use it, have that quiet reflection, but still have the visibility off of 183.
I think the church league still uses that, and there's some really nice bleachers down there. But along, the other thing is, the council a year ago agreed to have the Red Mayo Memorial down by that pillars in that location. So we still want to see that South Park go and develop it.
There's so much you can do down there, without a whole lot of effort. You know, yeah, you can redo a lot of things and do a major renovation out there, but without a lot of effort, we can really make that pretty nice, pretty simple. So.
Done.
And I've mentioned this before, we've done a lot with the North Park here in the past few years, and we've really done a lot of neat things up there, but I think we've kind of got everything done up there we need to do. Now it's time to start working on the South Park, and this would be a good springboard, I think, to move forward with getting some new things going down there. And it's kind of getting a little tired from over the years. It's kind of lacked the attention, so it'd be good to move forward with this. So.
Good.
I'll make a motion to approve the change.
Seconded by
I'll say.
Ben Johnson.
Beerbaumer.
Yes.
Hine.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Alder.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Sisson.
Yes.
McDermott.
Yes.
Gibbons.
Yes. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And as we get further into the design and whatnot, we'll bring more stuff up so you guys can take a look at it. And then we're going to try and ask for some stuff.
Really?
Imagine that.
Maybe we have a snowball tournament down there here in the next couple months or something.
Yeah, let's just stay with it. Thanks, guys.
One of the things we've been waiting for, item 8, Two Rivers Public Health Quarterly Report.
Well,
Well, I'm not sure.
Welcome back, Jeremy.
I'm not sure Mary been waiting for that all night, but I guess I should have brought a proposal for $1 million. You guys have been just very efficient in your decision-making tonight.
That's going to change.
One thing just to mention, and daily paper and holders say, if you don't think health affects our life every day, it has on there, teen vaping numbers rise. I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit today, but I'll try to be brief for our time. So I could just, you know, pass this around. That's okay. I got two different things coming around here. So the first thing you'll see, just a document talking about our community health assessment process. And so it's a process we get a lot of our key partners together over the course of a couple of years. Usually it's throughout that time frame too of really trying to get actual items going forward, but trying to help select our priorities for our district and our community. Each community they work in, city, village, county, may have their own priorities based on their own data, but collectively we like to have this kind of a common theme going through there. So, and the second document you'll see going around, the colorful one, is a little bit about e-cigarettes and vaping products. So, but before we get there, let's talk about a few other things that's hot in the news today. So vaccine preventable diseases, influenza. I can't talk enough about influenza. The burden of disease is tremendous. Actually, more people die from common flu than Zika, Ebola, every other catchy thing that's kind of hot right now combined. So a couple things you can do to protect yourself and your family, and those that can't be vaccinated. If you're sick, stay home. Get your annual flu shot. Wash your hands. Cough in your sleep. Those four things, those are really paramount to that. So I was talking to a mom and grandma just the other day, and wasn't necessarily a big believer, if I could say. She didn't value vaccination as much as some people do, and really what I really tried to rationalize with her is it's not so much about you or your family, but it's those that can't. So if you think of the really young kiddos, grandkids, things like that, they're 6 months or less, they can't be vaccinated, they're not old enough to be, or those that are going through health procedures, you know, that are immune compromised. So those are the people that we're really most concerned about. So, but it's that time of year. The early data is in. We never want to really say trends necessarily so much, but Louisiana's kind of hot right now. So if you're going down there, just protect yourself. There's some activity in Nebraska right now. We're still low. It's called minimal activity level, just based on that. But there was just a health alert put out just yesterday, I believe, by the chief medical officer in Nebraska, just to providers and health firms, things like that, saying it's around. Just keep vaccinating, keep alert on things like that. So the next vaccine preventable disease, mumps. So this is actually hot just today, and it's no secret, but necessarily we try to get information out the best we can. The National FFA Conference, I've been to that several times, not sure how many other people have been to that, but there's a vendor there that had mumps and was contagious for mumps. And so they're putting an alert out, you know, to everybody that potentially was affected across our whole area. Obviously, we have a lot of FFA members, so the great thing there, the vast majority of our kids and young teenagers, young adults that are that age have had 2 doses of measles, mumps, rubella. It's a triple dose vaccination, so pretty well protected. There are some people that are more at higher risk, but you can also contract it. Very small percent can contract it even if you got 2 doses, but just another one that's out there. And pertussis, also called the whooping cough. That's something, just talked to a provider over in Kearney County just the other day, thought there might be some around. So it's something we're always behind the scenes monitoring things like that. But there again, vaccine preventable, I can't say that enough. We have certain people that just don't take the time, don't value it enough, that we need to spend more emphasis there. So otherwise, some vector-borne diseases. So this fall, as the weather's cooled off, Mother Nature kind of kicks in there, and with that, bat activity really is usually high. Right around Labor Day is when it kind of peaks, and around that time frame. So we work a lot in the rabies spectrum, providing a lot of education to our area vets, providers in that regard. So if you find a bat in the house, capture it safely. Gloves if you can. There's a little coffee can method. You put the coffee can down, slide the lid under it, let it outside if you can. If it's in a small room with kiddos that can't respond, then we should capture it, take it to your local vet. That's something else we're just out there promoting. So there again, a bat bite so small, high incidence of rabies. Rabies is nearly always fatal. So you know, if you do all the math, high fatality rate and everything else, there can be some risk there. So West Nile this year with mosquitoes and also Zika, two different things there. So both mosquito-borne diseases. West Nile, obviously, been around for a while. People have heard about that. We had very little West Nile this year. We think, and the state postulates this time, that's the weird weather we've had this year. It's been kind of an anomaly this year with the weather. And with that, just that affects that population quite a bit. Now, the one thing to note, so we've had almost no human cases in our district this year. Last year, we had an all-time high. So just that's the disparity we're looking at. So, and Zika, there was a report and complaint in our district of Zika mosquitoes. There were actually Zika mosquitoes, the certain species carries Zika. Over by York is where they found some of those, and there was a complaint. It's too late in the year. We weren't able to capture any of those, but we'll be following up on them this next year. So, always emerging threats that are kind of out there, but some basic common sense and protection goes a long ways. So, so on to the community health assessment. The first thing I just want to talk about November 13th, 9:38 a.m. in the Kearney Public Library. It's going to be a meeting. We're going to talk about our current community health improvement plan and also the next iteration of our community health assessment. So a little bit of both. So we're just inviting folks there. Anyone's welcome. You know, it's an open meeting for whoever can make it. That'll be the first of a series of 4 meetings. We're going to start in Kearney, go to Lex, come to Holdridge, and probably go back to Kearney is our plan. But that's really, we're going to start our planning process for that whole assessment process. So we're planning on wrapping that up probably March, April timeframe, but we need to start at the data collection and everything else. So that's coming up. So, and some of the documents you've seen talks about health assessment and things like that too. So a new program I think I mentioned last time we were here, we started the influenza immunization program across our district. Talking about all the vaccine preventable diseases is something our Board of Health talked to. We acknowledge Barb Mullen back here, one of our best board members. I say best, she's attended every meeting since she's been elected. That's a hard feat to accomplish, so thanks Barb, got to play up for that. So it's pretty awesome. Your other public citizen from here in Phillips County, just a reminder, is Tanify. And she also represents really well for you guys. So, so since the last time I talked, we've established all the pieces and building blocks we need for an immunization program. So we provide both public vaccine, which is at no cost, to kiddos, and primarily focused on children at this point. We're doing some adults, and also what's called private vaccines. So the reason we do that is so it doesn't matter when you walk in, if you have insurance, don't have insurance, it doesn't matter. We can serve that need either way, because really that's our ultimate goal, is making sure people get vaccinated. So we provide about, as of today, about 500 doses of vaccination for flu. And so we're working primarily in a couple of school systems starting out, but we're expanding as we go. So we started in Kearney Public Schools and also Minden Public Schools. The reason being they did a beta test with us last year, so we're honoring that partnership first, but then expanding out. I'm going to talk to Todd. I haven't got around to it, but that's our plan. See if we can do it here in Holdridge. And we're not trying to duplicate any services that are out there. So, you know, we encourage people to go to the clinic, go to the pharmacy, wherever you go to get your flu shot, just get one. The reason we're doing it at schools, and you can see 500 doses, that's quite a few people. Life's busy. People don't always take the time to prioritize getting it done. I'll use myself as a great example. Have a few kids, and it's hard. It's hard to get everybody in, find time to do it. Usually taking your family to the doctor when they're sick, well, not the best time to get the flu shot when you're already not feeling the best. So anyway, our goal this year is 1,000 doses across our whole district. So that's what we're working on right now. So, and we'll provide, and hopefully keep coming back here and give you guys an update of where we're at next iteration of that. So next we'll go to the electronic cigarettes, also known as vaping. We've been working with a collaboration of different folks in that regard, really work towards evidence-based policy development around e-cigarettes. The current CDC recommendation, and well, let me back up just a step. So as of about last week, there's about 1,900 deaths, or I'm sorry, cases of lung injury, not deaths, 37 deaths, and that's nationally associated with vaping. Now, the vast majority that they know are related to black market THC vaping. So, but there's some uncharacterized there too. So, that being said, if you walk back in time when e-cigarettes and Juuls and things like that first came out, they were heavily promoted as an alternative to smoking. Well, what we know now is the most significant population that's increasing in electronic cigarettes are youth. So and another recommendation of the CDC is, and the CDC, Centers for Disease Control nationally, is that youth should not use e-cigarettes, period. If you do not use tobacco, you shouldn't use it, period. It's just not worth it. There are some benefits, although minimal, if you currently smoke, to go to that. And just the research shows it can help, but it's not the panacea they once thought it was going to be, that everyone quit smoking and whatnot too. So a couple things just passed there. If youth, young adults, women that are pregnant, currently are not recommended to use vaping products or e-cigarettes. And also adults who do not currently use tobacco products should not start. Those two things. So that, and I wanted to also just talk to the council, see if you have any interest. If you're interested, we'd love to help you develop a policy around prohibiting e-cigarettes. Two Rivers Public Health Program promoted a resolution back in 2016 about prohibiting e-cigarettes in public places, like parks, City Hall, schools, things like that. So if that's something you guys would entertain, we definitely could help you there at some point in time. Obviously not an action item tonight, but just something to consider. So I'll throw that out there. So we're working with other cities throughout our district too in the same regard. So we were working with City of Kearney. You may have read in the Hub, they kind of stepped back from that, waiting on more of a statewide initiative. City of Grand Island stepped forward, and they passed a policy here a while back too. So just some other local entities there. So might as well keep going ahead. A couple more things here. Is that okay with you guys? Okay. So some emergency preparedness and response, and that's an area we don't tutor enough on. A lot of work behind the scenes, and I know there's several different people, including the mayor, participates quite a bit in that area. Appreciate that. Going back to the flooding this year, back in March and July, the activities that we work on when that happens, it's always planning us in advance and help us prepare for those activities. And so if you go back to even the ice storm here in Holdridge, I think a lot of people recall that. It's been a few years ago, but you have to plan. You have to plan ahead for things like that because you play like you practice. And so we have a strong contingency. And I think I've said this before. We have in our whole district one of our strongest contingencies in here in Phelps County. So you guys should be really proud of yourselves for that. Just other community organizations working together towards that. So here on December 12th, here in Holdridge, we're actually going to be having exercise, and the scenario is going to be around a zoological type event, meaning county fair, sick animals, really it's just sick people, something kind of along that line. So that's going to be one of our scenarios. A little farther south, some of our neighbors down in Elma. Actually, here this Saturday, they're going to be having exercise around a tornado going through town or by the lake. Both those are pretty realistic. I think you'd agree. I mean, when I've been to the fair here, and Phelps County Fair, it's busy. A lot of people, right? A lot of animals. My daughter showed pigs this year. Well, guess what? Swine and humans not too far off as far as diseases go. There's a lot of things that transfer that way. So just a couple things to push out there. Also, we're pretty active both in the Buffalo County area, Dawson County area, and long-term flooding recovery. That's where we had a lot of our damage, from the flooding that came through in July. So we're still working. We'll continue to be working along that line. So, and the last thing, programmatically to mention, Life Smiles Dental Program. I might have mentioned this last time. I apologize if I'm duplicating, but we're partnering with the Nebraska Community Foundation on a one-to-one match grant and for our dental program. So we're looking for $25,000 the first year. Helps us fund our dental program to provide preventive screenings, treatments for kiddos. So if that's something at some point the council thinks they'd partner with, also talking to Barb at the county, and also Todd, you can acknowledge this too. So working with the school, the county, and the city, see if we're trying to find a good solution to that. So we know when it comes to disease, you heard the health insurance piece, the cost there. Well, we're on the upside of that, the prevention side. If we can prevent dental disease, why wouldn't we? Because you save so much money down the road. And we're talking, it's a huge ratio, like $1 prevents $50 in cost, something like that. So, and I have to mention, I'll close really quick because I know the mayor's giving me that eye, like hey, you need to go. I was at a training the other day, a fluoride training. I was able to sit and interact with a few of your folks, City of Holdridge here, City of Holdridge fluoridates, and that's a great thing you should be really proud of. Fluoridation of water systems, public water systems, is really one of the hallmarks of public health achievements over the last 100 years. There again, it strengthens our teeth. Two ways, we prevent dental disease for the most part is is both systematically, that will be taken all the time, like vitamins. So if you live on a farm, a lot of times, you know, your dentist or doctor will prescribe vitamins with fluoride in them, or through the water, public water system. The other way is through brushing your teeth with fluoride toothpaste, seeing your dentist, applying fluoride that way. So just a couple areas there. So any questions from the council or the mayor?
I thank you very much for coming, telling us a little bit what Two Rivers benefit has for our community, for our county. It's pretty impressive, everything that, you know, I've said in before on some of the stuff that you do. So I thank you for our community, for Barb and TANFI for being on the board.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll anticipate seeing you in another 3 months.
Yep, and I'll come back and ask you after flu shot.
We didn't make the season. Thank you very much, Jeremy. Okay. Item 10, consider ordinance 2432, granting a natural gas franchise within the jurisdiction of the city of Holdridge to Black Hills Energy. Good evening, Melissa Garcia.
Yeah, how's everyone doing?
Good.
Good. Yeah. So I'm here today because I had a chance to have a conversation with the mayor and with Dane to talk about really just some of the great projects you guys have coming up. We just, of course, talked a little bit about a housing subdivision, and you're looking at some paving projects. We really are only at year 15 of a 25-year agreement, but that's one of those crazy things that happen when you have an acquisition like we did with Source Gas. And so after looking at the current agreement that you have and really thinking about our current business practices, I wanted to give the council an opportunity to consider going ahead. I know it's 10 years early, but if we're not going to make any changes to the franchise fee, then we have the ability to come back and say, would you like to update the franchise agreement? In order to do that, there's 2 ordinances that happen tonight, and of course then the 3 readings that follow. About 90% of the communities that we do this with waive the 3 readings, but of course that's up to you 100%. But the nice thing about this and why this became something that could be important is because in the franchise agreement that you have in front of you that's being proposed, it's our standard template that we use in all of our communities. It's the one that Black Hills Energy has been using for quite a while now. But what you'll see in there is very different from the previous Source Gas, Can Energy, Kinder Morgan agreements. And that's the fact that we take on the cost of public projects from the company viewpoint. In the previous agreement, that was something that could be assigned back to the city. And that's really where this conversation came up with the project, where there was going to be some cost to move the natural gas facilities. Instead of having to kind of come together every time to say, hey, is this something that you guys can help us with? Is there something we can do better here? We thought the best option would be to come forth with the agreement that really put that with our company policy and really back in our responsibility as a partner here in the community.
This come about with the East Street Gap paving project that we're looking at. The gas line is okay where it's at now, but won't be by the time we change the elevation, remove the dirt on there, so we can get the flow of the water to go from 10th to 11th. So there won't be enough clearance, so the gas line will have to be lowered. It's what is it, 8-inch line, 70-pound line. We have an estimate of looking at $33,000 come out of our pocket because we need that gas line removed. Talking with Melissa, if we would redo this franchise agreement, then Black Hills said they will take care of that cost. I've talked to the local manager, Kashan, and he says if we want to do that agreement, can't do it this year, but he would be the first project that they do in the spring next year. So I thank you for giving us that option anyway, and
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that because these are 25-year agreements, that this may be something brand new to some of you at the table. And so if you have any questions about what the franchise is, what the franchise fee is, I would, entertain any questions that you have about that. We want to make sure everybody feels really good about the decision made today.
You showed that in the agreement, the cost of .009,
Yeah, it's
0.009 per therm,
Yep.
and that's kind of an average with what your
Yeah,
agreements are in
it's
other
on the high end
locations.
of the average, yeah, so that's a great question, yeah, because obviously something you want to consider. So I've been with the company for 3 years, and except for a few outliers, 1 or 2 outliers, almost all of them are being negotiated at about that 7 cent to, or the .007 to .01. So you're right within there. That's what we're renegotiating in many cases at. So if I was in your shoes, that would be very fair to what we're doing now. The question that I often get is why do we do this per therm? Everything else is gross receipts, right, when we look at them. And the reason we do that is because of the Choice Gas program. And so as you look at this, you see that we're referred to as the energy supplier. And because of the Choice Gas program, you lock in a price with them, that sort of thing. But we're the supplier, we're the local distribution company. But because of that, we can't collect gross receipts because we can't collect taxes on revenue that we're not receiving. And so we would have to just kind of pick and choose and say, okay, who picked Black Hills for their energy marketer and only collect a tax on that. That's cumbersome. The administration would be very difficult. It could change on an annual basis. This became the closest thing to apples that they came up with back in the mid-90s when they made the decision to implement Choice Gas.
And Black Hills is normally pretty active in our community. We had a firemen's parade, a supper. They didn't have the parade, too cold. They had the hamburger feed. We had 4 Black Hills employees down there helping with that. And they do different things throughout the year. So
yeah, we've also, I think last year had a blood drive at the high school. And then you were talking, I'm guessing it's North Park. I apologize if I
It's on the
get
north
that
end of
right.
town.
Yeah, so the handicap accessible, or the ADA playground that was put in, we provided a $5,000 grant to help fund
That's
that
right.
project as well.
A question for
You
Melissa.
bet.
Are you planning on continuing the Choice Gas program?
Yeah, so when we originally acquired Source Gas, we weren't really sure, we didn't work in that environment yet, and so we said, let's look at it for 3 years and then we'll decide. All the conversations we're having right now are supportive of the Choice Gas program. It's just working on making it as good as productive as possible for those customers and the end users. For the foreseeable future, I don't see it going away. And I know the Public Service Commission has recently just had a conversation, a hearing to talk about ways that we could make it better with us and with the marketers. So I do believe it will be something that we'll see continue.
It is a unique program. There's not very many other areas that have a program like that.
No, so it's only in half of the state at this point. So one of the things we're also doing is working on what we call a jurisdictional simplification, because after acquiring a septic company, we're actually 2 companies within one state. So we're working under really 2 tariffs, 2 set of laws, 2 set of rules, 2 set of O&Ms, all the things that come along with that. So we're working on simplifying those pieces, and this is an example of that as well, So only half of the state of Nebraska has it. There's a small piece, I think, of Colorado and Wyoming that have it in our footprint, and we're in 8 states, and that's the only pieces. But yeah.
It's an important issue to municipalities out here. And Larry and I were on when that was all started. It was quite a battle, and it worked out fine.
Yeah.
Gives people a choice, and I think that's important.
Yeah, and I think it was a really great conversation too during that hearing. We're hearing that same thing, just how can we tweak it and make it better.
Yes.
For the supplier and the marketers, and of course the most important are those customers who might see the benefit from that program.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Rod, do you have any questions, concerns? Okay. If not, first reading?
First reading, ordinance 2432, an ordinance granting Black Hills Gas Distribution LLC, doing business as Black Hills Energy, a Delaware corporation, its lessees, successors, and assigns, a natural gas franchise, and the authority to construct, operate, maintain, and extend a natural gas distribution plant and the system, and granting the right to use the streets, alleys, and other public places within the present or future corporate limits of the city of Holdridge, Nebraska, be it ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Holdridge, Nebraska.
I'd move to approve first reading of ordinance 2432.
I'll second that.
Second by Mary.
Sisson.
Abstain?
McDermott.
Yes.
Gibbon.
Yes.
Burbine.
Yes.
Hines.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Aldridge.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Motion to suspend the rules, have the second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Randy and Larry. Larry and Randy, excuse me. Backwards here.
Burbine.
Yes.
Hines.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Aldridge.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Sisson.
Abstain?
McDermott.
No.
Gibbons.
Yes.
Final reading, ordinance 2432. An ordinance granting Black Hills Gas Distribution LLC, doing business as Black Hills Energy, a Delaware corporation, its lessees, successors, and assigns, a natural gas franchise, and the authority to construct, operate, maintain, and extend a natural gas distribution plant and system, and granting the right to use the streets, alleys, and other public places within the present or future corporate limits of the city of Holdridge, Nebraska, be it ordained by the City Council of Holdridge, Nebraska.
Motion to approve the final reading.
So moved.
Troy Erbaum. Second by
Second.
Simpson.
Hines.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Aldridge.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Sisson.
Abstain?
McDermott.
Yes.
Gibbon.
Yes.
Burbine.
Yes.
Motion carried. Item 11, consider ordinance 2433, establishing a franchise fee on natural gas energy providers within the jurisdiction of the city of Holdridge.
So previously, when you had, before we just approved the new franchise agreement, the franchise fee and the franchise agreement were together. We do those in two separate ordinances, which is why you have a second one in front of you that's just for the franchise fee. And we do that because then for whatever reason, if we would ever have to take a look at the franchise and there was some issue that happened within that, we would not have to stop collecting that franchise fee while we're going through that. So keeping them separate allows you to not kind of be held up by that term or any situation that would come with one. We could continue to collect that local tax for you without issue.
Any questions on 2433? Dane?
First reading, ordinance 2433. An ordinance establishing a franchise fee on energy providers operating in the city of Holdridge, Nebraska. To repeal all other ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith. To provide for the severability of all parts hereof. And to designate the time described when this ordinance shall be in effect. Be ordained by the city of Holdridge, Nebraska.
Motion approved, first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Sisson.
Abstain?
McDermott.
Yes.
Gibbon.
Yes.
Burbine.
Yes.
Hines.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Aldridge.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Motion carried. Council, motion to approve or suspend the rules?
So moved. Go ahead, man.
Who made the motion?
Ben did.
Ben, second by
Sure.
Doug.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Sisson,
Abstain.
McDermott,
No.
Gibbons,
Yes.
Burbine,
Yes.
Hines,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Final reading, ordinance 2433. An ordinance establishing a franchise fee on energy providers operating in the city of Holdridge, Nebraska, to repeal all other ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, to provide for the severability of all parts hereof, and to designate the time described when this ordinance shall be in effect, be it ordained by the city of Holdridge, Nebraska.
Motion to approve the final reading? So Bearbaum, second by
I'll second.
Jason Hines.
Hines,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Sisson,
Abstain.
McDermott,
Yes.
Gibbons,
Yes.
Burbine.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming, Melissa.
You bet.
Item 12, consider East Street Gap paving project. I think Kim's had an estimate of that before. And this would be assessed to the property owners as has been on every other street, every other property in town that I'm aware of. We pave it, you're assessed so much per foot. I think the intersections, you go back certain distance and assess the properties there for the intersection. There's basically one intersection there at 10th. I don't know about 11th if that'll have to be redone. That's
Mayor, I'd like to table this. I kind of got some other options I'd like to look into.
some options such as,
I think, I don't like the idea of the gap paving it. I mean, I know we need to do that. We need to get it done, but I think maybe we should look at, since PCDC owns the lots across the way, maybe we should look at PCDC, maybe seeing if we can come into purchasing those properties from the people, so that then we can loop it all together instead of gap paving it, assessing it to the owners, and getting into that mess.
Mary.
Question, Ben, I want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly. We know PCDC owns the other side, and you're saying you want to hold off in the event that PCDC ends up owning the other side?
So PCDC, I believe, owns the other side of the street.
These parts,
along
and they're
with the
well,
Messner project.
Mhm.
they're aware that they'd be assessed.
Right. So I think maybe a better route would be to have PCDC maybe see about purchasing the properties from those residents so that they can lump it in with their other side.
I get where you're going and I like it, but us going ahead with this right now doesn't preclude PCDC from making appropriate offers and picking those up before those property owners have to pay the assessments, the people on the west side.
It doesn't, but it also keeps the ball, if that ball starts rolling, it's already rolling. And then my fear is that we're going to end up assessing the residents there. And then,
Owners, I don't know that anyone that owns those lives there. The owners, not the residents.
right, the owners,
Okay,
sorry.
sorry, go on.
And I feel like it's gonna end up backfiring on us. I don't wanna be responsible for kicking or taking somebody's home from them
because they can't afford to pay the assessment.
I share the concern that we're going to assess the owners, they're gonna walk away, the city's gonna own those properties. And we shouldn't be in the business of acquiring real estate as a rule.
I will tell you, when I bought my lots, I was assessed. So was everybody up and down my block. That's just kind of the way it is.
The assessment, if I remember correctly, will be higher than the valuation on those homes. So we're essentially, we know we're going to acquire them if we do this, or there's a high likelihood, excuse me.
One thing the reason we're looking at that street is, it's a substandard street. It's gravelled at the most. It's narrow.
Has there been any conversation with the owners of these properties about this project?
I've talked to an owner of 2 of the properties, and I understand that maybe the owner of another 3 properties might be interested in selling. Not only is that street substandard, I've been in several of those homes. I'd say those rentals are pretty much substandard also. Assessing the streets is going to help that neighborhood. Is it the right thing to do for the community? Yeah. Is it a fair thing to do for the property owners? It's the way we've treated everybody else in town, assessing the properties. Randy?
Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it, are we doing paving now? We're 15 years or 20? I think we can do 20. Can't we set it where we want it?
I think so. I think it is 20. I'd have to look at an old paving district, but I think it was 20.
I think we changed that a few years ago. We went from 15 to 20 to stretch it out. That makes it more affordable. And having paving in front of those places is going to make that property more valuable. You know,
I think we both agree that we need the paving there. I just think that maybe there's a better way to come about doing it.
Well, it's going to have to be done, and along with this prairie project now.
And if you look at it, any way we do it, citizens are going to end up having to pay for it one way or another. Because PCDC operates on tax dollars, and you know, when you're a property owner, you're going to be taxed, and the assessments go along with that. So,
and I'd like to couple this in with the Guston Street paving project, the Mesner project. Mesner project, they're going to be doing the paving in there. They got the equipment there. I'm thinking that we can save the property owners.
we won't have mobilization costs for one thing.
Exactly.
That'll be a savings.
It just needs to be done with this project. You can't do this project and not do East Street and leave that in the condition it's in. That's not moving forward. I think it'll all be fine in the long run, I really do. I'd like to ask if there's anybody here, any property owners here.
I don't think so.
Just the 2 of them.
Tom?
I live on 8th, just to the south there, about 2 blocks south on 8th and East Street there. Yeah, we like to see it done. It's dusty and, you know, it's dirty from that not being paved there. And people I've talked to in that area, we'd like to see that paved as soon as we can be.
I've gone down there when I've seen the kids walking down that East Street. No sign of a sidewalk. Hardly any gravel. And then they're meeting stuff that needs to be done. It's good for the city.
There's going to be a lot more traffic down there now. I mean, in the near future. It's just, I just cannot see doing this project and not doing East Street. It just has to be done, and I think the problems that you're thinking about, I think will take care of themselves. I really do. That property down there is not in good shape.
I agree.
I mean, I'd be ashamed if I said I owned any of that property.
Do we know how many homeowners live
on that street?
I think there's one homeowner on the corner of 10th. Well, there'll be some more south there too.
I don't believe
That
there's, on between 10th and 11th, I don't believe any homeowner lives there.
Oh, it's
Or
all
I believe they're all
Around the
rentals.
corner.
And then there'd be, to the south of that, there's 2 homeowners.
I noticed the other day I drove by, I think that north rental must be vacant. The doors were wide open
It's
and,
been vacant a long time,
yeah, I think it's sitting empty.
and nobody's doing anything about it.
And I think that if we pave this, it's gonna be a way of improving that area to where maybe those properties will get improved. You know, maybe they'll be acquired and somebody will develop those, so.
Those are some,
We're trying to look forward to the future, to improving Holdridge as a whole. And that's one area that really could use it, so if we can get it done, I think this is the time to try and get it.
those are some very nice lots, deep lots, you know. So and if there's new houses across the street and stuff, incentive there, so.
I get what you're saying. I do. And I've
Sharon?
Can I just suggest that in the time it will take to do the paving, to get the assessments before payments are actually due, I would hope we'd have homes on the other side that might be more appropriate for the types of residents that are in these houses to be able to move over there. They really should have been taken care of through nuisance ordinances a long time ago. They are so substandard. It was one of the areas, when we moved to town, I had no idea that Holdridge had a neighborhood like that. And my son came home from riding his bike and said, "Oh my God, you've got to see what our neighborhood looks like," because we aren't very many blocks from there. And honestly, it was rather horrifying. And that was 13 and a half years ago. They have not gotten better. So at some point, we have to make some decisions that say, we're going to make a choice that people don't have to live in houses like this in our community, but you don't want to dislocate them. I absolutely agree. It's, you know, but that's the point of some of the low-income housing going in across the street. Hopefully that will open up some units that they would be able to afford.
And economics says if it costs the landlord more, you gotta put a new furnace, you gotta put a new roof, he's gonna charge the renters more. If there's an assessment, they can charge those homeowners more. That's just business.
We need to move ahead on this project. This needs to be done when the paving's done on the rest of this.
What's the next step? Open it up for bids?
Yes.
You gotta do it.
Well, I'd have to look, it needs to be an ordinance, a paving,
Yeah, you gotta do an ordinance, I think.
for gap paving.
I had that about 2 months ago on a sheet of paper for everybody.
I'll have to do some research with Rob.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make sure we
Yeah,
start
you gotta do an ordinance.
proper procedures.
Let's talk about
You
this.
gotta do some title searches, find out who owns the property. A few things like that.
Sounds good, Will.
Start the process.
I recommend we table this tonight and look at it in a couple weeks. Do you need a motion to table?
You should, if you want to table it.
So moved.
Second.
Burbine.
Yes.
Hine.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Aldridge.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Sisson.
Yes.
McDermott.
Yes.
Givens.
Yes.
Thank you. Before we do item 13, we'll have the open discussion for the staff and council. Mitch, good to have you tonight.
Thank you.
Have anything for the council?
Not that wasn't in Dennis's notes.
Okay. Dave?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Nothing?
Ben? Randy?
Some of us received a message today on a property on 8th Avenue. This has been an ongoing problem for a long, long time. And the city needs to do something.
Yeah, the one with all the cars and stuff. Yeah, I've been called several times on that. too.
I didn't get the message today, but I'm embarrassed.
It
that
is
we haven't handled
embarrassing.
this.
And I'm going to ask that this be put on the next agenda for discussion. And if something is done in the next 2 weeks before the next council meeting, then we'll take it off. But we need to move forward as a city in code enforcement. This is ridiculous.
I know the chief has cited the individuals. Nothing's changed.
Right, yeah, he's been cited more than once, but he pays the ticket. I guess that's the cost of doing business.
This is neat. You just
Shouldn't
can't
be a
go on
business.
down
Right.
this road anymore.
It's not fair to the neighbors.
No, it's not. We need to do something.
Anybody in this room had that property next to them, you'd be screaming.
I agree.
Mr. Simpson,
Nothing.
Mr. Sisson,
You're good?
I'm good.
Mr. McDermott,
Gift to Grow is coming up. Put it on your calendar. Thursday the 14th.
14th.
Thursday the 14th.
75 good projects on there.
Yeah, Pete.
Thanks for coming.
The city is not on that part.
Oh, that's-
Gibbons,
Nothing.
Rod. Kim?
We had a sinkhole develop last night in front of the movie theater. It ended up being a broken sewer line, or I'm sorry, storm sewer line. And it's about 4 to 5 foot deep and the hole's 20 to 30 foot wide, so both ways. So they had it all exposed. I don't know if they got it covered today, but they'll get it fixed tomorrow and then start putting stuff back. But lucky we didn't lose anything in that.
Do we have a hole in the storm sewer or something?
Yeah, the storm sewer's got a hole in it, and we're gonna get it repaired and fixed.
Okay. See, it was barricaded, I didn't know what was going on. That was trunk or treat again.
Big trunk.
Ryan?
No, nothing.
Okay. We need a motion to go into closed session to consider FOP and IBEW negotiation.
I'll make that motion that we go into closed session.
Mike Sisson makes the motion.
I'll second.
Corey Bond. Thanks for coming.
McDermott,
Yes.
Gibbons,
Yes.
Burbach,
Yes.
Hines,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Alder,
Yeah.
Simpson,
Yes.
Sisson.
Yes.